Alright, welcome back to the Webcomics Iceberg. So, as for corrections and addendums to Tier 4, it turns out Gooseworks is not just the creator of Horde of Heroes, but also The Amazing Digital Circus, an animated show I have heard of but haven't actually watched. Maybe one day. Some of you guys recommended getting Meg, Mog, and Owl from a local library, which is a great idea, but this is the Webcomics Iceberg, as in comics you can access on the web. If there's no web version, it's disqualified, okay? Oh, and I think we actually got an artist comment on the last video. The artist said that this very clearly muscle mommy is not classified as a muscle mommy. Come on, you know what you did. Anyway, Ark and Blade was cool, so check that one out. I did like that one. Without any further ado, Webcomics Iceberg, Tier 5. RedPanels. Alright, so this is a comic by a guy using the alias Red, and it ran from 2015 to 2017. His own website describes the comic as, quote, I created this comic to share perspectives I have found lacking elsewhere on the internet. It is an attempt to achieve sanity through satire from the lunacy of a mad world. I hope it is also a place of respite for you. Is it respite or respite? I don't know. I never heard that word out loud. Anyway, I should also note that the very second thing I saw on the Google crawl after punching this into the search bar was someone calling it all the words that end in istophobe. So, this should be exciting. And we start with a comic debating circumcision. Wow, okay, 0 to 60, wow. Weirdly enough, if you ever hopped on the cesspool of toxicity, narcissism, and lunacy known as X, formerly Twitter, this has become a really hot button debate in recent times. It's to my understanding this is a Jewish tradition, and some non-Jewish people also engage in this. Whether you agree with it or not, Stone Toss did this exact comic better. Art's rough, layout's rough, walls of text, but that's just strip one. Let's see how we progress. And I actually think this might be Stone Toss before he was Stone Toss. Looking at the artwork and the framing, not to mention the political talking points being right-wing, I can't help but think that Stone Toss and Red are actually the same person. I'm positive they're the same. RedPanels only ran to 2017, and that's also the first year that Stone Toss popped up. The art style is rougher and looser in RedPanels, which predates Stone Toss. Expected improvements from just drawing the comic over time in the art department. I cannot find 100% concrete evidence though, but it seems like Stone Toss himself has never confirmed or denied it, unless you guys ever hear that conspiracy that Schmorky became Stone Toss? That was squashed because of Stone Toss's doxing. What if Schmorky became RedPanels instead? Nah, probably not. It probably is just proto Stone Toss. Well, at least his art got better. As for his opinions, you can debate that in the comments. I'm not going to touch it. Don't you guys love it when I have to front load these entries with politics? Isn't it wonderful? No reviews. Let's move on to something that I don't want to talk about. Bridgette's Belly. I don't like that title. And wow, bad webcomics wiki right at the top. You know what? I gotta see if this site has a random button. Be a good idea for sort of a companion series for the Comic Fury Roulette series, where I'm looking for gold, while in bad webcomics wiki dumpster diving or something, I'm looking for the worst of the worst. That one will get way more views. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. What is this? Oh boy, inflation again. You know, the last time I covered inflation art in a pretty damn objective manner, the inflation fetishist found the video and had a shit fit, like, all I really said was something like, if you're not into this, you'll probably find it a bit weird like I do. That's about it. But I digress. Let's rattle that cage again, I suppose. So this is a comic by Andrew Frazier, and there doesn't seem to be a plot synopsis. Good, sooner we read it, sooner we can get this over with. Okay, and it's a furry comic. Bridgette, the titular character. I said tit. Anyway, Bridgette is pregnant and keeps getting bigger. Obviously to satiate the artist's inflation fetish, and I'm not reading anymore. The art is black and white, and I really don't think it's particularly good. It's presenting in this weird infinite scroll format, but they're just strips stacked on top of each other, and the text in the balloon seems to be stuffed in and even have hyphenation, which personally I'm always avoiding. I get that it can happen with like translated works, but in the native language I rarely see that because it doesn't look good. Not feeling this one, as expected, and no reviews, so let's just move on. Kipo. Or Kipo? We'll just go with Kipo. Okay, so this one needed a little digging, but I found it, well, not really digging, more like a single scoop. But this was made by Radford Saychrist, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Apparently it's unfinished, but it was adapted into a Netflix show called Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. Oh man, Netflix adaptation, the worst kind. Well, I always say, hey, if the adaptation's shit, you always got the original source material, right? But I'm getting sidetracked ahead of myself and leaving a hint for a future video that I'm planning that might be a little out of left field for me, but it's about a franchise I care about. Anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent. Kipo. 32 pages, posted in 2015, archived by the Internet Archives, the real MVP of people like me that research weird internet stuff. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so I ended up reading the whole thing because it's pretty short and there isn't a whole lot of dialogue. It's not bad. It's definitely got a very unique art style with these blocky, angular characters and extremely vibrant colors. As for the story, well, there's not much to go on. This was unfinished after all, but I guess the lore was expanded on in the Netflix adaptation. Titular character I said tit. The titular character, Kipo, seems to be some kind of drifter accompanied by some feral boy journeying across an apocalyptic wasteland. There's some implication that some kind of cataclysm happened not too long ago in a brief flashback from Kipo's point of view. There are creatures out in the wild called mutes, which I'm assuming is short for mutants, that pose a threat. At a certain point, the two characters get captured by some frog mafia. I like those guys, and are forced into slave labor, and the story ends there. There's really not a lot to go on unless I check out the Netflix show, which looks like they did some unnecessary redesigns. Part of the charm of the source material was the extremely loud colors, at least when I was reading it. There aren't any reviews, but I kinda liked it. Wish there was more. I think I'll give the Netflix show a shot. Moving along. The Cloud Factory. Oh boy. We got what I can only call content. Oh yes, perfect for my channel. The long and short of it, this was a Kickstarter scam. This was a fantasy comic made by one Alexandra Douglas. It collected over $80,000 on Kickstarter in 2013 and was abandoned after 8 pages. That's like $10,000 a page. Marvel artists would kill for those page rates. Well, since it's got a ton of lore around it in regards to the scamming, I'll save that for an infamous webcomics episode. Funnily enough, when the bad webcomics wiki popped up in the first few search results, as it has been doing for a lot of these, they defined this webcomic as infamous as well. I knew that was a good choice of words. And I know you guys are waiting for the next episode. That's either going to be the next upload after this or second to next upload, so stay tuned. Or it's already up if you're watching the supercut. I know what you guys want. By the way, speaking of crowdfunding, would you guys be interested in me doing that for print versions of Doomsayer if you read it? I don't know, just a thought, just throwing it out there. It'd probably be a volume 1 and 2 thing after chapter 20 is done, like 10 chapters per book, since mine are usually longer. But I digress. Back to Cloud Factory. Going off the rails here. Let's check out the story, shall we? Steampunk plus magic, 100-year prophecy, yada yada. Not necessarily reinventing the wheel here, but I will say, for what it's worth, those 8 pages do have some very nice artwork. Kind of a more realism, painterly vibe. I like the art. Reviews? Who's going to review an 8-page comic? I mean, I will when I get to its infamous webcomics episode, obviously, but it seems no one else did. Anyway, we're going to save that one for another time, and we're going to just move on for now. Dare Sensei. Fur Affinity. This isn't going to be good, is it? Okay, since where the comic is posted doesn't contain a synopsis, TV Tropes is coming in clutch. Quote, Dare Sensei is a comic written by Mary Bell and illustrated by the Palcomics team that presents a version of Doctor Who as it may have been conceived by Japan. In this dimension, Rassilon visits Earth in 247 BC and returned to Gallifrey with the knowledge of the era's most advanced culture, the Japanese. Oh, okay, it's probably pronounced Dare Sensei. Also, the most advanced culture, the Japanese? Wow, okay. We got a Doctor Who fanfic written by a giga-weeaboo. Yeah, that synopsis is worthy of me upgrading weeb to weeaboo. Good lord.
A fucking weeaboo!
I'm learning Japanese on Rosetta Stone.
A disgusting weeaboo!
So I'm like basically Japanese now.
I'm not familiar with Doctor Who at all. It's like British Quantum Leap or some shit. He travels in a phone booth like Bill and Ted and they're like gay robots or something. I don't know. I'm too American for that beans and toast ass shit. Okay, enough jabs at the British. Hopefully there's context to this fanfic for people who stumble on it and don't know its source material. Reading time. And the pages are all out of order on Fur Affinity where it's posted. So I really can't read it. Now can I? You can't put a fucking sequential story on shuffle. I don't know. There's time travel. Ichigo's here for some reason. Doctor Who. I can already tell I'm not going to like this. The art's pretty decent, very weeby, as expected, no reviews. Maybe if someone could direct me to a version that's in order, I can do an episode on it, but until then, next comic. Yaoi High. Yaoi fucking High. Seriously? I really have to look this one up. Man, this would be a perfect spot for a VPN sponsorship, but we gotta pump those numbers up. Subscribe. Do it. Do it now. I think I know what this comic is about. So, the vagueness of this title seems to be hard to search for since a lot of yaoi is set in high school. Japanese thing, you know how it is. But I found a page of various comics of anime characters being homoerotic, so I think this is the one. The art is a bit rough around the edges in my opinion, but despite me not being the target demo for it, it's got a bit of charm, I don't know. But I'm not actually sure if this DeviantArt user is the creator. Again, vague as hell title. I do want to say I found a comic on Webtoon called High Class Homos, though. That's an amazing title. I just needed to share that with you. Also, the synopsis sounds like it might be pretty fun read, too. Anyway, I don't know. All these yaoi stories seem to be the same. The sub-dom dynamic is so obvious and in your face that the characters feel like caricatures at some point. And you know, there's always dudes getting rammed in these, a lot of times without consent. And these stories are usually written by and for women. And I just gotta say, y'all are sickos, bro. Look, I'm willing to give the genre a fair chance, though, but what I've come across isn't really doing it for me. How do I put it? It's kind of like an ecchi anime. You got slop that's degen garbage like Tolovaru, but then you have an incidentally great sports story like Keijo, and that's like Keijo with like a million exclamations. You know, I feel like I've only been exposed to the bottom of the barrel. Please, if you're a Fujoshi watching this, I'll take recommendations. I'm open-minded enough to give it a shot. Anyway, this entry turned from me talking about webcomics to talking about my issues with the yaoi genre. We're just gonna move on. West Tree Academy of Heroes. Okay, we're taking a trip to Comic Fury for this one. One of my favorite webcomic sites. Check out the Comic Fury Roulette series I started up in the last upload. Or quite a few uploads back if you're watching the inevitable supercut. So, this is by a user named Zach-a-Dude. The synopsis from his page says, quote, "Life can suck. That's no exception for Zach Man and SD because they're socially retarded and are surrounded by weird demi-humans in a weird dangerous universe. But they do have some normal friends. Well, as normal as they get in this world." Okay, seems like a bit of a slice of life meets absurdist humor. Well, let's give it a shot. And yeah, this one is hard to describe. The art is very rough. Like, I think this was made by a kid. The story is kind of all over the place, and I'm kind of confused just reading the first few pages. Again, we're just doing first impressions. The majority of these will be getting their own dedicated videos. The word balloons seem to be an afterthought, and the font is hard to read at times. This one panel here seems a little racist. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird. Seems to be a lot of slapstick going on, but the roughness of the art makes it seem particularly violent. Not to mention the main character is named Zach, and the creator's name is Zach-Dude. I mean, is this a self-insert wish fulfillment kind of story? I'm kind of at a loss here. It's one of those things where you're just better off checking it out yourself. Oh, and if you do, let me really emphasize this point. Do not under any circumstances harass any individuals featured on this channel, okay? We are only here to observe. My videos are for entertainment and documentation purposes only. Alright? Reviews? Yes. I found one single review on a forum called Tapatalk where the author himself was looking for feedback. And apparently he was trolling the right-wingers or something? Fucking politics, always creeping its filthy little fingers onto every aspect of our lives. You know, there was once a time where things could be apolitical. It was called before Trump, honestly. There's some alternate universe where Jeb Bush became president in 2016 and people weren't psychos about this shit. Anyway, I'm going off on another tangent again. Man, this episode is Tangentville. Oh, which was another comic I covered in the previous tier. That one was kind of fun, despite crude artwork. West Tree Academy of Heroes, on the other hand, was not. And this reviewer has as much to say. Quote, "I will review your webcomic right here in the forum. This webcomic is really boring and a sin to look at. After the first page, I did not want to read anymore because I noticed the main character has, presumably, the same name as the author. Or at least the author goes by the same name as his character. This tells me already this webcomic sucks fuck because it's a self-insert wish fulfillment." Just like I said. I read the next page anyway. Zack goes to school and gets bullied by the female lead, who the author attempts to imply is more masculine than him. For some reason in webcomics, when this exact thing happens, the two end up dating, even though it would never happen in real life. After a few pages, there is a page that is not in color. I expect you to at least be consistent if you're going to bullshit me the whole time. The rest of the chapter consists of a game of truth or dare with Zack and his friends, if it wasn't wish fulfillment enough. Something interesting to notice that Zack's undead girlfriend is the author's real-life girlfriend's favorite character. I find this very interesting. Are all the characters inserts of real-life people? I want to know more about Mr. Bling's real-life counterpart. The chapter ends with Zack in the hospital. In chapter 2, Zack is now Jack, and all his friends get to live in a big house and hang out and tell cool stories and drink coffee while they gossip about what's going on in their isolated friend circle. I skipped this one. In chapter 3, Jack is Zack again, but the tag says Jack. Whatever. They shout and fight heroes now. I skipped to chapter 7 because I'm aching for something to surprise me. I'm really in the thick of it now. At some point, I'm really going to guess chapter 5. Everyone traveled to an alternate universe where everyone looks like it was drawn by Shen. Shen? The bike cook? Okay. And all the really funny characters are attacking a school for some reason. They save the day by being huge perverts. For real, dog. This isn't a plot review, so I'm going to skip ahead again. All the way to chapter 20. Annabeth is fighting some nerd. I think we're in the middle of an arc here, but I can't be sure. I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm running out of time, so I'm wrapping this up and skipping to the current chapter. I guess they just hang out now? I don't care. Content review is over. The main issue with the webcomic is that it's too long. Maybe give it a rest and do something else because it's 4 years of shit that means nothing. It's also very boring. For an action webcomic, most of the time the art showed is cartoony. In fact, you illustrate the action scenes like a Tumblr slice of life webcomic and the slice of life as a freakish nightmare. No one wanted to review your webcomic because it would involve reading it and then having the energy to say something funny about it. There you go. No green lighting, no chicanery. There's the review of your webcomic you really wanted. End quote. Wow. This guy tore him apart. Well, when I get to its episode on the channel, I'll try to be more charitable. I'm always at least trying to find, at minimum, one good thing to say about these comics. Hell, I even said that Bench Tales had consistent character models, despite being an abomination to humanity. But I've spent enough time on this entry, like way too long. Next comic, 3 Chord Dorks. This one's by one Kevin Griffin. Synopsis, quote, "Yo, I'm Kevin Griffin." I don't know why I gave him that voice. Yo, I'm Kevin Griffin. What up, what up? I draw a comic about rock, metal, and video game music called 3 Chord Dorks. And this is where I post my other occasional drawings. Bro, I just fucking hate it when people call it video. It just, like, makes my fucking skin crawl for some reason. I don't know why. It just, like, just type video games, okay? Just be normal. Alright, anyway. Tumblr comic, Pokemon fanfic, walls of text in the description of post, Nintendo garbage, disqualified. I cannot be objective when it comes to Nintendo fans. And boom, we hit the John Shits on Nintendo quota for the video. Y'all were clutching your pearls when I called y'all out, but now you see that Nintendo fans will sacrifice their firstborn for the Switch 2. A console that barely hits PS4 performance. PC Master Race stays winning. Anyway, yeah, I can't with this one. Come on, man. Pokemon, Nintendo, I cannot take away my biases. No, not doing it. Art's pretty decent, though. Next. Randall's Friends. Okay, so this one has an official site, but I kind of like how the Webtoon re-upload is formatted better. Holy shit, John actually prefers the Webtoon formatting here? Has hell froze over? What's next? Is he gonna say that Nintendo isn't cringe? Okay, sorry, I'm really going in on Nintendo today. Back on track. This one is by an artist using the alias Captain Howdy. Hell of a name. The Webtoon upload was posted by a user named Ranfren for life. Hope they had permission. Anyway, the synopsis. Quote, Randall's Friends, also known as Ranfren, its shortened named, is a series of surreal comics centered around 2 brothers and catmen people and other friends in a mysterious great Canadian suburbs. The series is created by Captain Howdy, or their other pet name, Monte, and it first started as short comic strips in 2011 and later became a full comic, with the first release being Lucids in 2015. The comic currently still ongoing, with it having 2 volumes. Canadians! And no poutine warning? Don't jump scare me like that, man. Alright, anyway, So reading the first little bit of it, the art style is extremely unique. It kind of gives me like Salad Fingers meets manga vibes, if I was going to compare it to something else. But the story didn't really hook me. It's a little hard to follow. There's a lot more text than I would like there to be as I reach the end of this tier. What can I say? After a while, I just don't want to read anymore. I'm not necessarily what one would call a constant reader, more so a casual reader. You know, I really should read more, though, like actual books, but I'm getting sidetracked again. This one does kind of remind me of Mr. Boop in terms of both the artwork and its absurd nature. They eat magical ice cream and start hallucinating or something. I'll have to revisit it. I kind of sped read it, admittedly. Reviews. Well, what do you know? There is a Goodreads page. Top positive review. Amity Dedrickson says, a series of wild adventures with a cast of wacky fun and interesting characters. The art style is unique and fun with references to internet and pop culture galore. Ew, it's got internet and pop culture references? That's points off for me. Top negative review. Yeah, I've seen those comments, alright? I gotta enunciate a little more, okay? People thinking I'm saying the bad word. Negative review. Stupid YouTube auto captions. PJ says, I really used to enjoy this comic during the summer of 2021, but I don't really enjoy it that much anymore since the author became problematic in the past year. What happened? Did they say read or something? Vote conservative? I don't care, man. Despite being charmed by the rougher art style, the story failed to hook me, but I am also writing the script while running on fumes. Admittedly, from catching up on Patreon stuff. Oh, by the way, if you like my own art and comic, check out the Patreon. Shout out to the people on screen. It is an 18-plus Patreon and does have some spicy artwork, so do be aware of that, but only $2 a month. Alright, plugs done. Ranfren, not really doing it for me. Next, Minimal. And back to Comic Fury with this one. This one is by a user named JMLovesBob. On to the synopsis. Quote, Minimal. With nothing left to lose, Taylor Morgan embarks on a treacherous journey to the center of the universe, a place no one has ever reached. With the help of Eleanor, her closest friend, and Beatrice, an artificially intelligent robot, she hopes to explore new worlds and find deeper meaning in life. So we got an adventure story. Alright, let's get them first impressions going. And it seems the JM in JM Loves Bob stands for Joshua Motes. Okay. As for the actual comic, the art's a bit rough, but in a more charming way, you know what I mean? It's got stick figures, but there's a lot of heart, you know? There's some kind of sci-fi story being told here, but I'm actually going to cut this entry off here out of respect for the family. It appears that Joshua Motes, the author of the comic, unfortunately took his own life. I'd feel wrong to put my usual snarky tone and poke fun at these comics, you know what I mean? I mean, it's a bit of a canned response, but it's worth saying. If you're struggling, it's okay to seek out help, you know? We all go through hard times in life. It's okay to reach out for some help. You know, seek out your local mental health professionals. My condolences to the family. Rest in peace, Joshua Motes. Krazy Noodle Massacre. Wow, okay, that title is tonal whiplash. Wow, alright. So, this one is by a creator using the alias Lutzbug. Looking at the official site, our synopsis is as follows, quote, a surreal psych horror comic about one man's obsession with a generic macaroni product and the nerds who spy on him. Gideon is a fidgety hermit who builds giant noodle sculptures he won't let anyone look at. He's being haunted by a psychic brain parasite named Gabriel who pretends to be his friend, but encourages his worst paranoid thoughts so he can feed off his negative emotional energy. Meanwhile, Rhodes and Dempsey, a pair of married gay nerds, become obsessed with Gideon's strange public behavior and treat him like their own personal cryptid. Follow the spiral of bizarre events that unfolds because of their unchecked voyeuristic tendencies and internalized ableism. Okay, this sounds kind of intriguing, actually, to me at least. Well, let's get our first impressions underway, and I like this one. It has an interesting premise. The story is told from the perspective of the aforementioned Rhodes and Dempsey. They've been keeping tabs on Gideon, aka who they call the Crazy Noodle Guy, and there's some implications setting this up to be a horror story. Honestly, I'd read further ahead, but I want to save it for its own episode. Good webcomics or something like that would be a good prototype for a series covering the good webcomics I've come across in this iceberg. The art style is really unique, feels like a cross between like cereal box mascots, Rocko's Modern Life, and those hyper-realistic frames of earlier SpongeBob episodes. Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. I'd recommend this one if you're into horror, and I look forward to revisiting it. As for reviews, no reviews. Oh, man. I did like this one, though, so let's just move on for now. Pegasus Project. And back to good old Comic Fury for this one. This one is by user named Zaten. Zaten? That, whatever. Synopsis, quote, a young Valkyrie gets dragged into piloting a Pegasus unit against surreal monsters called Neps. Nepenthes. Whatever that word is. Updates bi-weekly Fridays. Science fiction, furry, anthro, other LGBT monsters, mecha psychological. Okay, we got a fantasy, I think. All the tags don't imply that, though. So let's get that good old first impressions going. And alright, it's basically just an Evangelion ripoff with furries. It started out as a slice of life kind of story, and then the main character gets dragged into piloting a Pegasus. Yeah, not an actual Pegasus, a robot called a Pegasus. An actual Pegasus would have been way cooler in my opinion. The art is kind of a vibe though. I wouldn't say it's good nor bad per se. I don't know. The characters read from panel to panel. It has strong design elements, you know. Everything is really angular, and everyone looks kind of lanky, giving it a unique visual identity, but the story really isn't doing it for me. I should also note it seems that the font resolution, or the actual font itself, changes sometimes within the same panel. I can understand a font differing in later chapters, which a lot of webcomics do as creators better learn how to implement word balloons and dialogue, as well as just develop technical know-how as they progress, but not in the same damn panel, dude. Not bad, just not really doing it for me. As for reviews, hard to find any since there's a Marvel comic about the thing called the same thing. The thing called the same thing. Anyway, that's annoying. I wonder if anyone else has a comic with a similar name who can't find any reviews online despite really wanting to see if there's any feedback, but it's just overshadowed by a more popular property that just happens to have the same word in the title. Yeah, I look up reviews of my own stuff once in a while, okay? Sue me. We all do. One more comic to go. How I Became Yours. Alright, sounds like a wholesome romance story. Bad webcomics wiki. Oh boy. So, this is an Avatar fan comic by one Jackie Diaz. I'm not familiar with the Avatar series. Bald Avatar, not Blue Avatar. I've heard nothing but good things about it though, so I'll get around to watching it someday. But we got a fanfic. This bodes ill. Took me a bit to find it, but let's check it out. And holy shitty font Batman. Listen, if you're going to do a wall of text, that wall of text must be legible. Not to mention the archive I found of it is really low resolution. I'm not sure if that's the original author's fault or if it's just the archiver's fault. When picking fonts for your story, make sure it's one that is highly legible and easy to read. This bootleg papyrus looking ass font is horrendous and it isn't even aligned on the page properly, making it actually unreadable. I cannot give a first impression of something I cannot read. Unfortunately, that makes this one disqualified from review. I literally can't read it. Sorry. Seems some people like this one though. I mean, I guess if you're a hardcore Avatar fan and just want some more Avatar content, good luck. I can't read it, but hey. We actually have some reviews over on TV Tropes from people who could stomach the font. Listen, as someone with a graphic design background, I find this typeface highly offensive to the eyes, and its use of crime to typographers everywhere. I get that she was trying to go for like kind of a mystical vibe with this font, but you'd be better off putting that bitch in Helvetica. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's read some reviews. Zivzav says, absolutely hysterical. Seriously, you'll laugh all the way to the emergency room as your brain slowly dribbles out of your ears. The wall bangers start off strong right out the gate with one of my personal favorites, Sokka, trying to comfort his heavily pregnant sister, tells her he thinks their mother would be proud of her. Yeah, you're 15, which even for their world is underage. What? What the fuck? What is this show? Maybe I don't want to watch this show. I'm pregnant with the illegitimate love child of a head of state. I'm sure mommy would be proud. It just gets better from there. From all-worthy mistakes and mishaps like Chord Monster to the painfully obvious traced art, you just can't get a better fix for your bile fascination. That said, if you're a fan of the show and really enjoy the deep and interesting characters, go in prepared because you're about to witness the utter defilement of everything you love about them. You have been warned. The main page to tell you all you need to know about what else is in store, so I won't retread any of that ground. Just know that there are few things that compare to how I become yours when it comes to eye-catching hilarity. I highly recommend... Why is my voice getting worse? I highly recommend it to anyone who enjoys so bad it's good entertainment. Alright, wow. Sorry for that voice, I don't know. I like to do a funny voice when I read the reviews just for entertainment value, but I don't know what the fuck that was about. One more. Alright, let's check out another review. Catmuto, or Camuto, whatever, says, Not even so bad as good. I'm not a shipper Zatara, nor am I a huge fan of the series to begin with, but this is so blatantly going against canon, which is already a pet peeve of mine. If you don't like canon parents, fine, I tend to not like them either, but you could at least try to maintain a certain amount of dignity during. The characters are all bland and have no personality and are frankly idiots. This whole thing is based off of an idiot plot. The art is horrible, while using real photographs of places for backgrounds can work alongside drawn characters, it doesn't here. The repeated tracing of stills from the show is horrible. It barely allows for movement of the characters, slightly altered facial expressions look like they always convey the wrong emotions, and the few times when Diaz actually draws something herself and doesn't trace, it stands out like a sore thumb and looks spot. Why didn't she just write fanfiction instead of forcing this badly done comic onto the world? Oh right, because her lines suck and she doesn't know how to properly spell or seems all that familiar with proper English grammar. Also, reading the text is difficult. See? I told you, I'm not the only one. Reading the text is difficult, not just because of the bad grammar, but also because it tends to result in wall of text exposition and no way to make it stand out from the background properly. I don't know what the program was used for this, but it's obviously didn't have a stroke option or something to make the text stand out. This isn't even a guilty pleasure or something to look at, so you can laugh at it and have a good time. It's a boring one, and it isn't tediously stupid because of stupidity. Wow, alright. Okay, I guess I was wrong. People do think it's bad. Nice Haru profile pic, by the way. More of a Takemi man myself, though. To absolutely none of my regular viewers surprised at all. That was a good game. Too bad Strikers sucked. Tactical was pretty good, though. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Yeah, that was the illegible How I Became Yours Avatar fanfic webcomic. Gonna pass on that one. And time to wrap this tier up. Alright, and that is Tier 5 of the Webcomics Iceberg. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. If you want to see Tier 6, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment for the algorithm and all that. Check out my own webcomic, Doomsayer. Share the video around to maximize reach. Patreon too, yada yada, you know the spiel. Every YouTuber does it. But does every YouTuber share your fan art? No, I do though. Check out these cool and cute dragon versions of my characters, Alyssa and Kieran. Aren't they cute? I love how Alyssa is smoking a pipe and she looks like she's so over everyone's shit. Just like how she is in the comics. Awesome work. Share your fan arts on the Discord to get featured. Yeah, I always forget to plug the Discord. Links in the description. And, yeah. Bye.